In the early hours of March 9, 2023, 40-year-old Ashley James Brofo was brutally murdered in his prison cell after being convicted of abducting and attempting to assault a young girl in Western Australia. His killer, a fellow inmate who had already attacked another predator behind bars and proudly admitted to taking justice into his own hands. Today's video uncovers the fates of child predators who met violent ends behind prison walls, some shocking, some inevitable, and all deeply unsettling. DeAndre Austin. In the quiet streets of Richmond, California, DeAndre Austin was just another face in the crowd, a man whose life seemed as ordinary as anyone else's. But behind closed doors, between the span of 2002 to 2006, Austin betrayed the very people who trusted him the most, his own family. What makes his story even more chilling? How this facade shattered and led to consequences even he could never have imagined. Austin had committed heinous crimes against his young nieces, who were elementary school-aged at the time. The abuse was continuous and severe, involving multiple forms of sexual assault. He was convicted of lewd and lascivious conduct with a child under 14, continuous sexual abuse of a child under 14, penetration with a foreign object with a victim under 14, oral and sodomy. The horrifying truth about Austin's actions began to unravel when one of his 3 victims, showing remarkable courage, confided in a trusted adult about the abuse. And yes, one of 3. You see, Austin systematically preyed on not 1, not 2, but 3 of his nieces. As the initial disclosure reached law enforcement, it triggered a thorough investigation. Detectives interviewed all 3 victims separately, and what they uncovered was chilling. Each victim provided a detailed, consistent account of the abuse they had suffered at Austin's hands. Their testimonies were consistent and corroborated each other's experiences, leaving no room for doubt. In 2008, after a trial, Austin was sentenced to a life term with the possibility of parole. He was sent to Mule Creek State Prison in Ione, California, to serve his sentence. Prison life is notoriously harsh, and for someone like Austin, it was even more perilous. Austin's notoriety as a child molester made him a target, and soon, the expected happened. On October 14, 2020, just after 5:30 p.m., correctional officers at Mule Creek State Prison responded to a man-down call in Austin's cell. They found him unresponsive. Despite immediate life-saving efforts, he was pronounced dead at 6:30 p.m. The prison officials treated Austin's death as a homicide. His cellmate, Rodney Jordan, was placed in segregated housing pending an investigation. Jordan, 29, was serving a 5-year sentence for second-degree robbery. Investigations into inmate deaths can be complex, involving multiple agencies. In this case, the Amador County District Attorney's Office assisted Mule Creek State Prison's investigators. The exact cause of Austin's death was not immediately disclosed, but the involvement of his cellmate and the nature of his crime suggest a targeted attack. While Austin's fate was sealed within the confines of a prison cell, the real victims were the children he abused. Their lives were forever altered by his actions. But if you thought Austin's betrayal of his own family was horrifying, the next case will leave you speechless. This is the story of a man who turned a beloved community tradition into a nightmare for children, all while hiding in plain sight. Clinton Don Simpson. In the quiet town of Keller, Texas, everyone knew Clinton Don Simpson as Mr. Don. He had this cool miniature train setup in his backyard called Mr. Don's Whistle Stop. Kids loved it, and parents felt it was a safe place for birthday parties and fun afternoons. But in 2007, things took a shocking turn. A 3-year-old girl told her parents that Mr. Don had touched her inappropriately during a train ride. This revelation was like a bombshell in the community. As the news spread, more parents came forward, and soon 12 children, aged between 3 and 9, accused Simpson of similar acts. The community was in disbelief. How could the friendly trainman be capable of such things? Simpson was arrested and faced serious charges: 9 counts of aggravated sexual assault of a child and 3 counts of indecency with a child. The details that emerged were disturbing, to say the least. But the legal process didn't go as smoothly as expected. Simpson's mental fitness to stand trial became a big issue. In 2009, he was declared incompetent to stand trial and was sent to state hospitals for treatment. This back and forth about his mental state dragged on for years, causing frustration among the victims' families who wanted justice. Fast forward to July 2018, and Simpson was back in the Tarrant County Jail after after being declared competent for trial. But jail wasn't going to be, for Simpson, as forgiving as the court. On November 7, 2018, Simpson was resting in a cell he shared with David Faustino Flores, a 42-year-old inmate who was on suicide watch. Early that morning, surveillance footage showed Simpson in his wheelchair, seemingly calling for help. Within minutes, Flores attacked him brutally, delivering over 60 blows to his head and slamming his face into the concrete floor. Simpson was rushed to John Peter Smith Hospital, but was pronounced dead shortly after. Simpson's story reveals the horrors of trust betrayed. This next case, however, takes us into the mind of someone shaped by darkness from the very beginning. Mitchell Harrison. Despite being raised in a stable family, Harrison exhibited inappropriate tendencies from a young age. These issues persisted into his teenage years, leading to several run-ins with the law for minor offenses. However, it wasn't until he moved to Kendall, Cumbria, that his actions escalated to a horrifying level. In 2009, Harrison committed a heinous crime that would seal his fate. He, then 23, encountered a 13-year-old girl walking down the street. He struck up a conversation and, under the guise of purchasing alcohol, lured her into his apartment. Once inside, he forced her to strip naked and subjected her to 2 separate rooms. The young victim managed to escape when another man arrived at the apartment, running out into the street while holding her clothes. She sought help from a passerby, who contacted the police. Authorities swiftly responded, and Harrison was arrested shortly after the incident. During the investigation, he was charged with 2 counts of a child under 13. In January 2010, he was sentenced to an indeterminate prison term, with a minimum of 4.5 years for. He was also placed on the offenders register for life, incarcerated at HM Prison Frankland, a high-security facility in County Durham. Harrison found himself among some of the UK's most dangerous criminals, violent offenders, terrorists, you name it. The prison grapevine is notoriously efficient, and despite the efforts to segregate vulnerable prisoners, the news of Harrison's offenses spread quickly. On October 1, 2011, the simmering animosity towards Harrison reached a deadly climax. 2 inmates, Michael Parr and Nathan Mann, harbored deep-seated fantasies of extreme violence. Mann, in particular, had a history of violent behavior and had previously expressed a desire to disembowel and behead fellow prisoners. The pair saw Harrison as the perfect victim to fulfill their gruesome desires. In the early hours, Parr and Mann lured Harrison into cell C-22 under the pretense of camaraderie. Once inside, they launched a brutal attack. Using makeshift weapons fashioned from toothbrushes and razor blades, they overpowered Harrison, binding and gagging him to prevent any resistance. The assault was planned and executed with chilling precision. The attackers proceeded to disembowel Harrison, inflicting severe neck and eye injuries. The brutality of the attack was staggering, even by prison standards. After the murder, Parr and Mann calmly cleaned themselves up, had a cup of tea, and smoked a cigarette. They then approached a prison officer and, in a disturbingly composed manner, informed him of the dead body in the cell. An inquest revealed that Parr and Mann had intended to consume Harrison's liver, but decided against it at the last moment. It's strange how prison walls have a way of exposing not just criminals, but the justice, or horror, others believe they deserve. But what happens when the system itself plays a part in letting a predator walk free, only to watch them repeat their crimes? Let me introduce you to David Kever, a man whose second chance at freedom became one of the most damning chapters of his life. David Kever. Born in 1941, Kever's early years remain largely undocumented, but his later actions cast a long shadow over any unremarkable beginnings. In 1996, at the age of 55, he was convicted on multiple counts of lewd and lascivious indecent assault on a child under 16, sexual battery, and attempted sexual battery. Following his conviction, Kever was sentenced to prison. After serving his time, he was released in December 2009. However, freedom was short-lived. In 2010, he was reincarcerated for failing to register as a sex offender, a requirement mandated by law to monitor individuals convicted of such crimes. This failure to comply resulted in a sentence of 8 years and 9 months. By 2019, Kever was an inmate at the Santa Rosa Correctional Institution in Florida. At 78, he was among the older prisoners, sharing a cell with 44-year-old Jimmy Ray Carruthers. Carruthers had a violent history, including convictions for aggravated child abuse and sexual battery on a victim under 12. Despite the age difference, the 2 men shared a confined confined space, a situation that would soon lead to tragedy. On the night of June 30th, 2019, correctional officers conducted routine checks and found nothing amiss. However, shortly after midnight on July 1st, the scene had drastically changed. Officers discovered Kever unresponsive on the cell floor, with Carruthers standing nearby. The subsequent investigation revealed a brutal assault. Kever had been strangled and his throat forcefully stomped upon, leading to his death. The autopsy confirmed the severity of the attack, citing manual strangulation and traumatic injuries to the head and neck as the cause of death. Kever suffered bruises on his face and neck, fractures in his neck vertebra, sternum, and several ribs. The brutality of the assault was evident, raising questions about the dynamics between the cellmates. Carruthers was charged with second-degree murder. In October 2021, a Santa Rosa County jury found him guilty, and he received a mandatory life sentence. That's a wrap for this video. An eye-opening look at how some of the most heinous criminals meet their end when the justice system doesn't seem enough. Maybe it's a reminder that some actions can't be undone. If this gave you a new perspective and you're craving more, check out the videos on your screen now. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.